Yeah, I wanted to start 32 and beyond as a kind of like a reach out to the community and bringing my story to light, not for grandstanding purposes, because Lord knows that my life is probably more likely going to serve as a warning to others than anything else. But what I can tell you is that I simply want to reach the community, the families, the kids, the nieces, the nephews, anybody who has things going on in their life that they're struggling with, that they are trying to navigate. They feel like they're just feeling like they're failing, or they're not gaining any sort of optics on how to create that compass to navigate to the direction they want to go in their life. I feel like because of having grown up in such an abusive household, and later on making the choice to try to rob a store that went totally horrifically wrong. I mean, there was going to be no right, but not to the degree of what happened in taking a life, destroying families, destroying so much in the wake of my selfishness. And I feel like bringing 32 and beyond to the table is one of the things that can maybe help steer some of the young Seans out there who are playing around a little bit with some horrible decisions, doing some stupid things. Um, so we'll see. And at the end of the day, it costs nothing to sort of just say, "Hey, real quick, before you feel like that's the route you want to go, I get it, only because I got it." And I don't know. I feel like there's some going to be some value to this. And in the end, it can't hurt to just sort of step forward and say, "Yeah, I'll help. What do you need?" So, in kind of breaking the ice on who I am, my name's Sean Cambron, Sean Patrick Cambron. I was born in Torrance, California. My real mom, Roxy, decided to basically give me up to the state when her and my dad decided to divorce when I was about 4 years old. My dad went to and Boise, Idaho, and he got a phone call from the state saying, "You got 24 hours to come pick up your kid. Otherwise, he's going to become a ward of the state." Now, I remember my mom dropping me off at some sort of state facility. It was like a shelter home for youngsters, and I remember sitting at the top of the stairs. My earliest memory, it's so vivid. And I'm sitting there at the top of the stairs, and she's telling the lady that I suppose that runs the place, she says to her, "I don't care what you do with him. He's no longer my problem." Now, that stuck with me. And I feel like that set the tone for many things to come. Well, long story short, and I'll fast forward, my dad does, in fact, get in his truck and he drives to California. He picks me up and he brings me to Boise, Idaho. And, that father and son relationship was never really solid, in the sense that my dad grew up with a hard father himself. Alcoholic, uh, very physically abusive, very, his dad was a hammer and my dad was always the nail. So he learned really quick, I guess, in his upbringing that, that there was no soft hand. And your kids are your property to do with what you will. And when he met my stepmom, and all of a sudden now I got a stepsister, Tina, it was really kind of cool at the beginning because it was like that bright and shiny new car smell, and everything was fine. And Dad was working in construction, and he was drinking, but he wasn't drinking that much until all of a sudden that seasonal job, which is construction, would sort of, ebb and flow. And when my mom would see how my dad disciplined me, which was just basically kick the shit out of me, starting at around the age of 7, it was really easy for them to sort of understand how that's the easiest way to manipulate me is just threaten to, yeah, when your dad gets home, you can explain to him why you decided to do X, Y, and Z. Well, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I share with you is that a lot of this process is going to cover a lot of things. But when it comes to really kind of diving into why sometimes kids do what they do, for me, I was being groomed at a very early age to sort of see what the interactive value is between human and human, mother and father and sister and brother and son. And that whole dynamic was really pretty much, you just didn't feel like you were valued, you didn't feel like you were loved, and you didn't feel like you had any worth. You felt like you were a mistake, that you were constantly doing something wrong, and that you were better off serving others from the shadows. Uh, I feel like I spent most of my time growing up apologizing and really just never sitting up, always sort of in that cower position, and always seeing everybody else around me as obstacles to avoid. I didn't want to interact with anybody. I didn't want to have a conversation with anybody because I always felt like I was going to get told what a lame ass piece of shit I was, and God, how did I freaking have a kid like you, and you're so worthless. And I'm sure you guys, unfortunately, at one time or another, can fill in the gaps on everything that I'm missing out on that. But it was pretty intense. And so, as abuse goes, I mean, it was pretty much nonstop. It was pretty much nonstop. And remember, so when my dad come home from work all day and he had his 6-pack by the time he got, his shoes off, it was pretty intense on the beatings that I would take. And I always share this with you, not to sort of make it seem like poor Sean, but to gain optics again on the mentality that is being developed at a very early age. So when my dad would start to beat on me, it wasn't one of those 10, 15-minute sort of things. My dad would get home around 5:30, and he would be done whipping my ass at around 10:30. He was always very careful not to hit me in the face, and he was from one end of the house to the other, and it was just brutal. So I'm learning with every blow, I'm learning how to embrace fear, how to solidify courage and be brave in the face of absolute certainty that I was going to be defeated. And that was every day. Every day I could look forward to how to navigate what kind of abuse was going to come my way and how I was going to survive at the end of that, because I had no choice. Now, we'll fast forward down the road. Eventually, I learned how to use those skills, those tools, to really pound and submit the world into my favor to whatever degree. I mean, obviously, clearly wasn't that great, but in my head it made perfect sense that, oh well, this, I'm being taught, I'm being groomed to be um, basically somebody that saw everybody or everything else as a nail, and I'm going to be that fucking hammer, make no mistake, because I got tired of being a nail. Now, when a kid, when I am that age, we really start to develop some beliefs and rules and attitudes on what it looks like to sort of, I guess, fit in. And so I remember clearly growing up and feeling like everybody around me was a fake. It's weird because when they would be laughing or hugging each other, and we're talking families, I'd see them after school picking up the kids, and the kids running to the mother or father. I always felt like, well, that's not true. There's no way that happens. They're covering something up. Little did I know, everybody else already kind of had a pretty good solid idea of what the hell was going on in my house, because my dad was really into public humiliation. I can remember him making me walk down the block in a squat position, shuffling my feet, waddling like a duck, saying, "Quack, quack, I'm a duck." And I am absolutely dumb as fuck. Quack, quack, I'm a duck. So, up and down the block, houses with the kids in them that I play with all the time, they're all on their freaking front porches laughing. And then until the parents would come in and they'd grab them because they were embarrassed for me. But I mean, that's really where my dad, when he got tired of beating my ass because he was tired, public humiliation was something that he could take to the next level, and he was as good as they came. So that's shaping my spectrum, my ability to sort of understand that these are the things that you do. And sort of, I just didn't realize that, everybody kind of already knew what was going on in my life. They already knew. So when I'd see them picking up their kids and they'd see me and they'd be like, "Sean, come here." All right. And I'd already sort of, by the age of 10, I'm already kind of a hard ass. I'm just sort of a really cordial kid. I was nice, respectful and stuff because Dad, as much as he was an asshole, he would definitely integrate opening up the door for others, holding out a chair, being polite, being respectful. Yes, sir. No, sir. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely not, sir. Thank you, sir. That was my life because he was Navy in Vietnam and stuff. So I feel like a lot of that stuff got carried over. But when they would call me over, I'd walk up to him. "Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say hi and let you know that you're in our prayers and that we love you." And they grab me and hug me. And I'm like, it was painful. Now, not physically, but mentally, it was excruciating to hear or feel someone giving me something that was so absolutely fake. Again, in my head at that time, that's all it was. Didn't exist. Because it doesn't exist. Love, respect, appreciation, and kindness was of the book, the Narnia, a unicorn. It just was something that was made up to, I guess, help kids go to sleep when they were told these bedtime stories that those things existed in the world. And so it's really interesting because a lot of this stuff, as I share all this with you, going back to it, I do a lot of reflection and thinking about, that poor kid. You know what? As much as those people were 100% genuine, and I felt they were absolutely just faking it for whatever reason, they have to want something. I feel like that really, again, starts to add these little beliefs to my toolbox and these rules about how I'm going to interact with the world as I grow older and I get more and more sophisticated on how to manipulate or navigate all these fake fuckers around me. That's what I thought. And so as I grow older, I start to discover certain things that really kind of, I guess, take the edge off. Because again, every single day, I am walking away with these battle scars, mentally, physically, spiritually, just bankrupt. And having no purpose or direction, and knowing that every day I went to bed, I was not loved or cared about, and that every single thing around me was built to destroy me. I know that that's not true, but you're never going to convince that kid that. So I guess it kind of goes that, well, if you're going to try to destroy me, well, fuck you. I'm going to destroy you. I mean, obviously not physically, but I'm going to try to take what you got, and I'm going to try to get what I want. That's what it come down to. Now, my dad was drinking so much, every single day, that, I mean, why wouldn't I try it? Well, hell, it seems to work for him just fine. Well, let's do it. So I started having my first drink around, I'd say, 11 years old. And, you know, I'll take a couple of beers at 11 years old, I'm hit. And, you know, then it would come down to, you know, every single, you know, month, increase a little bit more, right? You're chasing that first time, because that was fun. And then you start getting high, because dad and mom are smoking some weed, and fuck, that's cool. And they didn't know we knew, but we knew. Me and my sister would freaking just give them shit. And not directly. We'd be like, hey, mom and dad, don't you agree that people that smoke pot are just absolutely lame ass, stupid, ignorant pesos? And my mom and dad look at each other. Yeah. And we just started giggling because we knew, what are they going to say? So anyway, I started kind of, raising the stakes a little bit by reaching for some more, and some more, and some more. Weed leads to a little bit to the rush, you know, smelling the gasoline, huffing gasoline, doing the things that, you know, whatever you could find to create that head change, so that it almost adds armor to your person, because you need to armor up in order to endure all the stuff. And so as that goes, it was just easier to deal with the beatings. It was easier to deal with the cacophony of being told what a worthless piece of shit I was. And so, and again, sharing this with you isn't to sort of pour Sean, it's to really dive into how parents, you are creating new human beings who are like little computers, and they're just absorbing all the data, all the information, and they're just sort of constructing this optics on how they're going to see the world, number one, and then how they're going to interact with the world, number two. So when I see kids that are absolutely have this completely absolute entitlement issue, it's because kids are just basically being given whatever they want. They're not being told no. Their parents have created a vessel of someone that just simply is so me-centered that the world simply does not exist except to serve. And we all know that as human beings, if we are not serving others and we are only to be served, then our life is going to be that of depression, anxiety, mental health, and just I mean, last year there was over 50,000 suicides. And I could almost guarantee you that a lot of those people, the mental health that they had was a lot having to do with the fact that they just did not get what they wanted, and they didn't know how to navigate the steps that it took for them to create the avenue in bringing value to the community and to others. Because those that bring sunshine into the lives of others bring it into their own lives. Now, I'm sure there's a dozen other reasons why, but that's definitely one of them, because I spent my whole life in the state of depression to one degree or another. The reason I navigated is because my dad hammered into me that you will survive even if you didn't say the words. You're going to endure the worst possible environment any child will ever come up against, and you will survive it. And you will be able to articulate the next thing, and how to manipulate others, and how to get what you want, and how to mask the feelings, and how to create the onslaught of just the road to crime. And so as the years go on, and my dad eventually gets a divorce from my stepmom, and God bless her little heart, she got the hell out of there. You know, I can tell you that it's pretty sad when at 14 years old and I'm visiting, the detention center off and on, and I finally get to a place where I'm rather stay in detention than go home to my dad. And, eventually that's exactly what happened. And so, I can tell you this, as kids are abused, either mentally or physically, sexually, whatever it is, abuse also comes, and I promise you, hear me now, people, abuse also comes with you kind of showing the kid that he can do or say whatever he wants. That's abuse. Because that kid then forms the idea that that's true. So when they interact with the world around them and that doesn't happen, their job is to try as hard as they can to hammer the world into their perspective, their belief, their way of seeing who they are in the mirror. And man, that's just a freaking chasing your tail. That's just never going to happen. And so you do them a disservice. Letting them think that they can conquer the world is great, but being realistic about it is also very responsible. Telling a child, absolutely not, you're going to go wash your hands now because your hands are dirty, and this isn't a debate, and I'm not going to ask you how you feel about that, and when would it be a good time for you? No, there's some things are just not negotiable. You're a freaking kid, and guess what? Here's what's up. And I love you to death, and you're great, and this is what we're doing, and there's consequences behind every single action, and if you choose to do this instead of that, I am your mentor, your guide in growing and creating a place in the world that is absolutely adding value. And when you veer from that, that's okay. That's where we learn. And sometimes it just sucks. And I'm not going to coddle you through it, because sometimes you got to embrace the suck. Those kids will always prove to you that they're as resilient as they can be, and they are just built of the stuff that will absolutely show you that they rock. And the kids that struggle because that's not who they are right now is simply because they're being convinced that they have diplomatic immunity from the word responsibility. So, trust me, I know all about it. I feel like sometimes I created the template on that. Now, obviously that's not true, but I never had a child, but I had a couple stepkids, because as fun as that is, it's probably not the same, but still we have to create those boundaries and those rules. so that when Junior's at the grocery store and the clerk, who's making just barely over minimum wage, hands him an extra $20, they hand it back because they know exactly what's going to happen when at the end of the day that checker is short $20. They're going to get hit. So that's just, Junior's like, that's just not what we do. We give it back. Sean would have taken it and tried to figure out how he got it. How do we do that again? I want to repeat that. That's how I was raised, in the sense of do what you want, get what you want, get ahead, and fuck everybody else. Now, looking back on it, I can tell you this. It seems like a lot of the times that I was feeling good about myself was usually when I was stepping on the throats of others. I was walking over others. I was doing what I wanted to others for that feel good. Because, hell, I'm getting my ass kicked. You guys don't give a shit. Love and kindness and respect don't exist. So it's free for all. Now, all that being said leads me to down the road. Obviously, I end up taking some pretty hard turns and, breaking into houses, stealing from people, friends, family. I didn't care. Using pretty much at that time, pretty much every drug in the world except heroin, only because I didn't know anything really about it and it wasn't around. Partying all the time and just, and actually down the road, I actually become a foster kid. And that to me just opened up more doors to do more of the same. I'm barely squeaking by in school, and because school was evil, and just like work, 'cause my dad made sure that he taught me that, when you ingrain in a kid that you're going to go weed the garden in the middle of summer under basically it felt like an iron fist. If work equaled iron fist and there was no reward, then work equaled bad. I mean, it's just math. So I saw work as something that was horrible, and I saw partying as something that was great, and feeling good was all that counted. And so that mentality just grew exponentially year after year after year. And so that leads to, me sharing with you guys that there are so many little tiny, intricate little things, beliefs that are developed through that kid, me, growing up. It's not unique, but to bring to light of it, there's a lot of kids out there that have that kind of mentality, that are flirting around with the drugs and playing around with, what it's like to do some meth or some coke, and hanging around the kids that are just as bad off because they're experimenting and they're exploring, and their self-worth and their optics of the world around them is obviously horrible because they're seeking out so many things that serve them instead of, again, serving others. So if you're wanting to yourself, man, my kid they're just going down a bad road. They're doing some things that are scaring the shit out of me, and they backtalk me, and they yell at me, and heck, sometimes they even try to hit me, and all these stupid things that are happening in your life. If they say that it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at a particular skill. I've been painting for, 25 years. Done. Got it handled. I've been doing the criminal road. Hell, I grew up in it. I got 10 million hours. So if you need help in understanding how to navigate, rewind, or I guess unwind some of the things that are going on in your home with your child, I do not pretend to know how to raise your kid, and I would never say that. All I can tell you is what would have worked for me and what I have learned from the thousands of kids that I have worked with, because they have absolutely told me straight up, I needed boundaries, along with a list of other things that they said that would have worked. That's why I went that direction. And I can share those things with you. I can break those things down with you. If you have a specific question that needs answered, let's have a conversation. I'll bring it here on the 32 and Beyond platform, and we'll talk about it. And I'll share my experience with you, and hell, maybe something will stick. But I can promise you this. If you don't acknowledge the problem obviously will not be fixed. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And it's okay to say, guess what? I fucked up. My kid runs shit. My kid is probably going to prison. My kid is going to probably die of an overdose in the next 6 months or a year. My kid is going to probably do life in prison. Those things do not have to happen. Having done 32 years in prison myself, I can tell you exactly the formula that needs to occur in order to rewind all of that right now. And it's not because I have a magic wand or I have anything other than my experience that will prove to you all day long that it's not too late. And so, to me, that's the value and why I bring you 32 and Beyond. There is a dictionary of absolute 100% fuck-ups that I endured and that I created in order to serve you. Period. That's what I want to do. I want to serve you. I want my life to serve as a warning to others. But I also want to give you every single thing I got so that you can do something more than what's going on right now. Because clearly you're at a place where it's just not working. And I get it. You join the other 200 million parents. Probably more than that. I mean, I'm just spitballing. Probably a billion. Because kids don't come with an owner's manual. We know that. It's an old cliche. Bottom line. And none of us have it all figured out. But I do know this. I spent my time inside really hammering the fuck out of why I made it okay to walk into a Circle K with a 32 Belgium automatic and said, whoa, what the fuck happened to me? While I'm sitting on my bunk looking at 25 to life and facing every single predator, every single aspect of fear, desolate, broken, and beat to the core of my soul. If I can come to you with that kind of honesty, that kind of truth, bare naked of any alternative motive, just simply wanting to give to you what I learned. And you don't reach out to me because for some reason you still think you got it figured out, well, God bless you and good luck. I suppose what they say is that when the pain becomes great enough, well, I suppose that change will occur. One way or another. It's kind of hitting that rock bottom. Now, all that being said, I appreciate you guys and I appreciate your time, and I'm not going to spend a great deal on the opener of what this is, because as 32 and Beyond goes, I really want to make this interactive in the sense that, you know, what you need from me, I'm listening. Now, I'm going to share my interactions with prison because I feel like there's value in that, because a lot of you guys actually have kids that are inside, and a lot of you guys have nieces and nephews and spouses and whatever that looks like. And I want to journey that with you in the sense that, you know, man, There's no owner's manual on that either, is there? How do we fucking deal with that shit? So I can tell you this. I'm 53 years old now. I'm 2.5 years old in this world that I do not understand at all. Because for all intents and purposes, when I went inside in 1988, I basically went into cryogenics. And I woke up to the internet, rolling, you no longer rolling down your car window. The phones, oh my God. So many things. And I'll share that with you too, obviously. A lot of that's kind of, some of it's funny because, I feel like, every day is Disneyland and I'm blessed with the friends, you guys, who are taking the time out of your day to listen to me, and hopefully that adds value to your life, because clearly you guys add value to many around you. But I want to share with you my journey, just because I feel like there's a lot to be said that maybe we just don't know. We don't know what we don't know. Just like when I walk up to that freaking debit card and I put the card in there backwards and upside down, and I still know what I don't know. And the lady's looking at me going, well, hell, how the hell do you not know how to use your debit card? And I'm looking at her going, you sure you want to know that? Because I can tell you. And then my sister's going, she doesn't want to know, Sean. Let me show you. Anyway. So, I'm going to try to put one of these out once a week. If I need to do more, I'll do more. If you want to direct message me. As this particular launch goes, I think that in order for you guys to get your alerts and to get your quick responses, the best advice I can give you is subscribe. Costs you nothing. It takes a little beep, and there we go. Pass this along. I feel like you might have somebody around your circle that is really struggling, and I promise you, we're going to get to the answer. And if I can't help you, I can promise you that after having lived that world and being inside for that long, I will absolutely be able to uncover the answer for us. Because if we're not learning every day, then we're doing something wrong. So, subscribe, message me, and just know that I appreciate the hell out of you. And as 32 and beyond goes, every day is Disneyland. Every day is a blessing. Thank you for joining me. Let's do this. More to come.